are you?
I'm
Good.
little atmosphere here.
Yeah. We'll see you later. I'm gonna go
Okay,
find
hon.
the Biffy.
Okay, bye-bye. And here's Agnes and Kate. Hello, Kate.
Say hello.
How are you today, my dear? Yeah. You out shopping with Mommy?
Just wandering around.
I'm going to go buy some silk thread, I think.
That sounds like a good idea.
Yeah,
I know Mercury's also
I do too, oddly enough.
The computer thing, if you turned off the propane thing, how long do you think it would take for it to burn? And then how long is
Well, actually, that depends on how long it is.
So many things, like riding a bike, swimming, one piece, another piece, just got to put all 10 pieces together to make it work.
And come back when we have the machine.
And it's launch. It's 12:15.
There's a piece of here, right?
It's like there's a model.
Rights and responsibilities of a lady of the tier of on tier, given this 6th day of June, ANS 45.
Three cheers for the newest lady of on tier. Hip hip. Huzzah! Hip hip. Huzzah! Hip hip. Huzzah!
In that sense, this portion of Brewing Court. Thank you.
How are you, Grendel?
Pretty good.
Explain to us about your ironworking shop here.
Oh, ironworking. I do all sorts of iron. I do just black iron work and also do blades. I have a coke forge over on the side here, which is similar to a coal forge. We got Vanya here making a iron something or other, bracelet thingy. Why do you walk around all the time? Metal bracelet. That one's right. Stop. Polish off the outside layers and I'll get her with you.
Grendel, show us again how sharp that sword is, would you?
She knocks him down and lifts him and stuff.
What's wrong, Andy? What happened?
Have you got another paper cup?
The blade by itself is on. So when I finish, it would be about 2 or 3. what I do with my Okay.
Let me get over here.
God, what a nightmare.
See if I can do this.
And he likes to show people how to do it too.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to swing this, so it's going to go right over this way. So you probably want to stand over, forward.
Wow. That's sharp.
Well, actually, right there, it's not sharp enough.
Now, is that a sword that you've made?
Yes. This one started out as a 3/4 inch bar of steel.
That's absolutely beautiful.
When did it start out?
When? I did this months ago, but it took about 2 weeks to make.
Tell us about what you're doing here.
I'm making Anglo-Saxon annular brooches, so you need to say that like 6 times fast.
They're beautiful too. Just beautiful.
You know, I was looking for something because I knew it was going to be muddy. So I thought, what can I demo that if it gets muddy, I can wash it off? Metal.
Good idea. I like it.
I asked Grendel, because I've been trying to get, there's like 32 different stamps that come with these, historically. And so I've been trying to get stamps that are common to Wessex, the southern part of England. So I asked Grendel to make me a new stamp. So I might have a new stamp. So I'm
How exciting.
Come out when you needed them. Put it back in there. So yeah, they're kind of a gross thing, but very cool. Especially the ear spoon part. Because yeah, I always wait for them to pick that up and then I tell you what it is. So nasty.
See, Oklahoma wouldn't be as disgusting if they didn't use the word spoon.
Spoon, yeah. Ear and spoon.
Which implies that food is going to go on it.
Right. Oh, and this was so easy to make too, because all I did was I had a piece of wood and I took one of these. So I cut this out and just put it down, put it on the piece of wood and just whacked on it, and it made the nicest little spoon. So I couldn't figure out quite how I wanted to do that, and then I just decorated them. The ones that they pulled out of the ground were actually much more decorated than this. So it was probably for some highborn lady. But I've actually used the tweezers when I was in a pinch. I do. Yeah, I just basically a piece of again, Rio Grande. Get all this wonderful brass. Dead soft, and so what I do is I actually work harden it on here. I've got this one that I'm almost ready to go, so I filed it down and taken the hammer and sort of hardened it, because when you work harden it gets really, really stiff, and so instead of, if you put it on fabric, it won't pull out from the fabric, and so I work harden it except for the end, and then the end is going to be curled around when it's put in. So I've got 2 of these that I'm working on, so once I'm done, put it in there, curl the end, keep it in there, and then voila. I mean, yeah, they look complicated, but they just are so not.
And this one.
This one is a little more complicated.
Two different ones.
It is. Well, it's
Different
actually
kinds of metal?
it's 3 different kinds of metals. There's the boule, which are the bubbles or the bosses, and that's basically from these little bits. I've made smaller ones that are soldered onto this piece of silver right here, and then the piece of silver is actually riveted. Let me get this off right here. The piece of silver is actually riveted with little tiny rivets, basically little nails, onto the brass.
How do you rivet?
What I do is I drill a hole that's approximately the same size as whatever piece of wire I'm using into both sides, and then I stick a piece of wire in there and cut it so that's just ever so slightly smaller or bigger than the 2 pieces, and then I hammer it down. I love the hammering. There's lots of hammering in my world. So basically it's literally like hammering 2 things together, nailing them together with another piece of wire, and it's really, really strong. You have to literally drill these out to get them back out, because they will compress as you hammer them, and so it's a cold connection technique that I'm in love with.
And the stones on them, you didn't use super glue, did you?
No, they're just beads that I wired on. So it's on a piece of wire, and then I went ahead and you some wire to pull it down, couch it on there. And those are coral. They should be garnet, but I couldn't afford the garnet. Garnet's pretty expensive.
Do you have a card?
I don't. You know, people have asked me that. I didn't even think about it. I was like, oh, I'll demo this, and I didn't even think about it. No, the card.
Oh.
I don't think about those things.
Do you have a pamphlet?
I don't. I
Do you have
know.
a website?
I do have a website, but it has nothing to do with this, unfortunately. I run a website called The Renaissance Tailor, and it doesn't have any of my maltsmithing on it. It's all mostly about costuming and history of costuming, things like that. This is easier to demo in the mud than costuming.
And more fun.
And more fun, yeah, because like I
I can
said,
remember all of this.
oh, if you want, why don't you go ahead and take this. I can get it off here for you. Because this will get you to the website.
So, we're having to work on those angles. We'll take one of these pieces I've got here in the, we were looking at it a while earlier. So I've got this piece, it's stock, and I've already got it really close. There we go. It's a small thin piece, so we can talk about it. So as you can see, you got this flat edge here, right? We're going to pretend it's got the hollow out already. It's a bit too thin for that, so I end up doing something else anyway. And what I'll do is, I've got 2 gauges.
In Europe, you're only talking fava beans and a bean called the horse bean, which is very closely related to the fava bean. And there was a squash. The rest of it is it's amazing how much of the American diet is New
Type spices.
Interesting.
Yeah, so the ingredients of this meatball is just lamb and egg and grains of paradise, ginger and cloves. And it's going to get fried up, deep fried in a batter with parsley in it. And I cannot wait to try it. I haven't had them yet.
Sounds absolutely delicious.
Yeah. Yeah, I am very excited.
So you're the Dragon's Lair Culinary Guild, correct?
Yes, I'm actually just a guest for today.
But she's helping a lot.
I love cooking and I love helping out. But Morg is one of the members, and I believe that's the guild mistress right there.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's a selection. I'm using a spoon. I usually use my hands and they get over the
Yeah.
Wonderful. Maybe we'll check back later and see how they look.
You should. We've got lots of wonderful things today. You'll be shocked at how absolutely delicious Korean cooking is.
Thank you so much.
Unfortunately, we're not allowed to.
Does the water need to be kept warm?
Yes.
So this is what we need. We need a brazier with a bowl on top of it, and then another bowl that fits inside of it.
That would be great.
And how much does the water, and how much liquid do you need it to hold?
Well, this needs to hold about a gallon, which this
So
one
you
does.
need a gallon bowl in a bigger bowl full of water for a
and
double boil.
this is one that I found like,
Yeah.
and you see, it's not nearly as
You need deeper.
yeah, it's shallower. You know, it's more flared out, wider. Yeah. It doesn't need to contain as much.
It's working. This
Yeah, it's
system is
working.
These bowls
But you need a brazier underneath it. So we'll make it with a brazier.
If you think we
Braziers are
can,
easy.
if you think we can,
Yeah,
that would be
so
fabulous.
make a wide brazier. Doesn't have to be really deep. And you don't even have to have sterno cans under it. You can actually take the charcoal briquettes that you get in the ceramic briquettes, coat them with sterno, and you shove them under there. They look cool.
You are
Are you kidding?
so.
That's how I do it with the pipkins. It looks like charcoal burning,
This is
but
already.
it's sterno.
Yeah, our water. We're getting a good exchange. Water's already coming on.
Yeah, see what we're doing is warming the milk with this system. And we have to do it sort of double this way because you can't put this on straight on the fire because the milk would scorch underneath.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like I say, it's kind of like a double boiler.
And it's
Yeah,
pretty
so you need a double boiler.
Yeah.
You need a brazier underneath. Well, we'll work on that.
Yeah.
Hey, if you think it's
doable, I love this.
It's doable.
This
Good morning, cheese ladies.
Good morning.
Explain what you're doing here.
Well, I am in the process of making soft cheese that I'm going to mold by hand. I'm just going to press the way out of it by hand. And right now we're warming the milk because the milk, it's goat milk, and the milk.
And this is from your goats.
Yeah, you can see the butter fat has risen to the top. It's a little cold. I can tell you right now, it's not even tepid. It's cold. And so we're exchanging the water back and forth again to make it warm.
It's probably time.
Yeah. And then what we're going to do is we'll add rennet to it, let it sit for a while, and then we'll cut the threads up and make the cheese.
Explain what rennet is.
Rennet is an enzyme that occurs in a baby ruminant stomach, so a baby goat, a baby calf, baby whatever, and it coagulates milk into cheese, essentially. And so way back when some caveman or woman discovered that that's what happened, and they discovered that if you take a piece of the stomach, which we didn't do, modern does different, but if you take a piece of the stomach, you can do the same thing.
So maybe if they put the goat's milk in the stomach, it turned into cheese.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So you can go along that way. So that's basically what we're doing right now. We've made ricotta from the whey. This is whey. And this is whey after the ricotta has been made, so it's very clear. It's usually milkier than that, but that's ricotta.
So this is the watery part of the milk, and that's the fat part of the milk, right?
Yeah, and then we made from all of those products, those 3 products right there, all came from the same pot of milk that was 3 gallons. That big cheese right there came from that. We just made that yesterday, and then you have to leave the whey to acidify overnight, and then we made the whey cheese.
So then you
ricotta.
press it to get it in that form some way?
Yeah, we pressed it. And these are aged cheeses in a ricotta that was made a while back, and butter. So it's just aged cheese.
The butter is very white.
It's goat milk. So yeah, it's goat butter, and it's whiter than cows. It's just the way it is. Good. Yeah, that's good. And then that hard cheese over there was made with a period recipe, but Liz and I made it at home. And
would that be a kind of cheddar or something?
It's turning out to be sort of a cheddar Swiss Parmesan cross.
It's
very good.
Its flavor is
May I
reminiscent.
taste it?
Yes,
you may. Its flavor is reminiscent of cheddar, but it's getting a very. If we aged this another month, it would be too hard to eat. You'd have to grate it like Parmesan.
It's going to be a grated cheese.
Yeah.
And it's just, I don't know, he doesn't explain how it was aged. The recipe doesn't talk about that or what it was used for. My suspicion is if you needed a soft cheese, it was used right after it was made. If you needed a semi-hard cheese, it was used a month or 2 after. If you needed a super hard cheese, you let it go. And you know, you just had successions of these going on, so you just grabbed whichever you needed at that time for whatever you were going to do.
I see.
And so that's basically what I think. So I'm experimenting. I'm going to do more of that to figure out what it happens at the different aging process. You know,
I have a tasty thing you might like to try.
Absolutely.
This is some fresh ricotta that we just made this morning, and I was offered the use of some honey that somebody else had left over. So I took a bowl of fresh ricotta and drizzled some honey over it. Maybe in this bowlful, a couple of teaspoons max. It wasn't very much at all. And mixed it into the curds. And this makes a sweet but not overly sweet, creamy, honey flavored, yummy dessert.
Absolutely
Very, very
delicious.
Very simple.
It is.
Well, thank you, ladies. Beautiful work.
70
Nothing that we're doing today involves very high temperatures.
Yeah.
Okay, so now that you're almost up to temperature, then you're going to, did you say, add the rennet at that point?
Yeah.
That will make it congeal?
Yeah.
It's tepid.
Yeah.
Would you like me to put in some more water?
No, I think this is
Are we
warm
good?
enough right
Okay.
now. So we're
yeah,
okay.
I think the outer ceramic bowl has heated up enough that it's retaining.
Yeah,
heat
it's
fairly
retaining.
well.
It's retaining.
This is really a pretty good system considering that we've kind of like made it up on the fly.
Yeah,
So about how long does it take to make your cheese from start to finish, say for the cheese that you're making now?
This cheese will take about, after I add the rennet, I'm going to add quite a bit of it, but it'll take about half an hour to 45 minutes to set up. and then we can cut it, and then we press out the whey, and it's done.
Just like
Yeah.
that.
Other
So you could
cheeses-
ostensibly have fresh cheese every day then.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Other
Yeah.
cheeses like that one we made yesterday, we pressed it for about 12 hours, and now we've got the salt going because I want to make a rind on it. I want it to age longer. If you were making like a really soft cheese, like a chef cheese or something, you would only put a little tiny bit of rennet in it, and it would take about 12 hours to set up, and then you'd spoon it into like a straw basket, you know, a little basket or something, and let it drain, and then that takes a couple of days. But it's a fairly quick process. And it's not anything that you need to sit at. I mean, I'm just stirring it because I'm bored. It's not really a quick process that you need to sit at constantly. You know, it's something that you come and attend to for half an hour, and then you leave and go do other chores. And then you come back 3 hours later and attend to it, and then leave and go do chores.
Work out perfectly if you're making your living on a farm.
Yeah, exactly. The thing that takes the most time, and that I think dairy maids did the most, is heating the water, making sure that everything's clean, because they scalded all their vessels before they used them, so making sure everything's clean, and then tending to the aging cheeses, because they like to grow funny little like blue cheese micro fungi on top of it, and so you have to rub them. And you can imagine if you have 40 cheeses to turn over and rub every day, or 100,
This is the one
that
we
is
made
going to be a lot of
yesterday.
work. So I think that, and then
Made
of
that
course
here on site.
separating the cream and
We put
making
it
the
in
butter.
the press for
So
about
basically
12
you do have a
hours.
full day's
Took it
work,
out
but
this
it's very
morning.
varied,
We're just
and
now
there's a lot of
rubbing it with
downside.
salt all over,
You know,
because it'll
a lot
hold
of
the age
downside.
and make
Well,
it
that's
fine.
very interesting. Thank you for sharing your process.
You bet.
Good morning, Katja. Good morning, Malcolm.
So we just
How are you, my dears?
do our own little thing, you know. The rods are.
Well, I'm doing about 50-50 this morning. I got one bee that survived and one bee that cracked.
Oh dear.
Anyway, these are stainless steel welding rods that we bought at the welding place, and best prices I've been able to find are right there.
Okay.
And you have to buy them by the bundle, but yeah, you know.
Explain a little bit about what you're doing, Malcolm.
What I'm doing is making the base gather for a rather large dot bead. And I'm using some of Tatiana's very expensive Bordello Red.
And keep that off. You're just gonna have to learn. Those things get sharp. You leave them and they are sharp. They will puncture and
then they're fine and they crackle, and I've done that.
yeah.
Not fun.
So anyway, now I have to patiently roll this till I've gotten the required shape that I desire. And I may bias it with a marver so that when I've got it to that oval shape and well distributed, then I can start taking this or maybe even a stringer of the same color and start doing little dots radially around it.
Your decoration around it.
Got one in here that I just did a little bit ago. It's a practice dot.
Let me get up close. Could you hold it up again, Malcolm?
Pardon me?
Hold it up again. I didn't.
Oh, you're welcome.
Okay, let me find it. Let me get in close there. Okay, now we can see it. Oh, isn't that pretty? That's great. Thank you.
We're just having all kinds of fun experimenting and seeing what happens. And I started out experimenting. I saw another fellow's movie about making bees and beads and stuff like that. And I said, oh, that's easier to do than what I've been doing. And consequently, I've got 4 or 5 bees now.
Good morning. What are you doing here?
We are demonstrating medieval calligraphy and what we do is we use books of real manuscripts to make awards.
And you're practicing your hand, are you?
I am, and practicing unselm right now.
She says it's my actual name.
Which is
and you're allowed
very
to use
early
your actual
hand, 500 to 700.
And how long do you have to practice that until you feel comfortable enough to put it on a scroll?
Oh, I would probably practice quite a bit. This is my first attempt.
Oh, you're doing very well.
I like to
Does the gridded
painting
paper,
part.
the gridded paper helps you
Yes.
keep your letters even?
Yes.
Wonderful. Well, you're doing beautifully.
Thank you.
And what have we got going on over here? What are you guys up to?
Painting
Hi.
underglaze onto pottery.
I'm
It's
painting
been fired already.
stuff.
Oh, you're painting.
She's
Beautiful.
illuminating pottery.
Because I
Illuminating
got tired
pottery.
of doing So I just go right and I'll just, what if I just do a dot? Or does it have to be totally filled in?
No, whatever you don't fill in will be white. It'll be shiny white.
Lovely little white pots.
Aren't these cute?
They're little pink pot,
They're-
pink water pots.
They're
Redbo
darling.
made these.
I know, they're gorgeous.
And this is from the Book of Kells, which was
And if you wanted later,
about
when that orange is dry, you can put another color on the orange.
Like a dot?
Yeah.
yellow that you
I think
see
it looks
along.
good to kind of.
Good morning, my darlings. How are you? Good morning, Elizabeth. How are you doing?
I'm pretty okay.
Explain to us what you're doing.
Oh, me?
Both of you.
Stitching.
I understand.
I'm doing the early version of needlepoint. This is tent stitch. And this is a painted canvas, so it looks more finished than it actually is. Only this part here and this part along the bottom have been stitched.
I'm getting very close to see. That's lovely.
So people tend to be really impressed by this, even though it's not, you know, they think it's all done.
That's beautiful. And is this linen that you're embroidering on?
I believe it's linen canvas, and I've got wool thread. And actually, this is the first time I've worked in wool thread. Oh, wait a minute, no, I take that back. I do have some I used on the blanket too. So.
Well, that's going to be a gorgeous piece. What are you going to do with it when it's done?
Well, I'm going to give it back to her because it's a kit from her shop. So she's going to have
Oh, you're doing it as a sample for a display piece. Beautiful. Lovely.
She was kind enough to give this to me, so I'm going to return it to her when it's finished.
Yeah. Agnes, tell us about what you're doing.
I'm just working on a little bag. I've got did some cluster stitch to make the patch, and then I'm just stitched around the bag in blanket stitch, just doing, you know, a dual color blanket stitch using silk and wool threads.
And is this a gift for someone, or?
This is a largesse, is part of the largesse project.
Mm-hmm.
So
Explain what largesse is.
that's the when largesse is something that our crown, the king and queen, will give off to other people when they go, you know, if they're going to other kingdoms.
Sort of like the swag bag.
It's a swag bag. There we go. That's the modern word. It's
Good
a swag bag.
Good explanation.
So we're just having fun putting it together, and I like this stitch here. It takes a little bit of time, but I like it because it doesn't waste your wool, which can sometimes be a little on the pricey side.
How do you do that?
Well, you can come and take a look. This is a piece of painted canvas. See, it's painted, so I know which color goes where. This is
Ralphie,
the
be
part that's been
nice.
stitched. So,
Shush,
It's
Ralph.
okay. It's okay.
Filming.
Thank you. It's all right.
watch. Just.
It's okay. She's fine.
Okay, from far away, it looked like you had done that all.
yes, it does, and people tend to be very impressed by that. But it's not finished. Not my collection. Yeah, no, this one's painted. This is stitched.
And then it's not.
So it's really just very little.
I'm just taking some video of June Fair. So would you like to tell us what you're doing and explain your process a little bit?
This is called card weaving, and it was used in the Middle Ages to make long, narrow bands that you would use like for decorative trim, or like for belts and sashes. In the Middle Ages, the cards, of course, would have been made of wood, bone, sometimes animal horn, or even leather, which had been stiffened with oil or wax. And there are different colors threaded through different holes in my cards. So when I turn my cards like this, see how the red came popping up? And that will make the little red spots that you see down here.
Isn't that clever?
And all of this will eventually become this. The gold thread here, that's where I started this morning. I've done all this so far this morning.
Wow, that's beautiful. Very beautiful. And what is the fiber that you're using?
Plain old DMC embroidery floss. All the Michaels stores in the area know me by sight when they have their 4 for $1 sales. You know, oh no, it's her. She's going to clean us out of black again.
So how long will your band be when it's completely done?
7 yards.
7 yards.
At least 7 yards.
And this will
Sometimes
be for
a few inches more, depending. But
this will be for trim, or
this will be for trim. This is going to July coronation. It will be one of the Squire's Trim prizes.
Lucky Squire. Lucky Squire.
I've been doing trim for the Squire's tourneys for 20 years now, and they usually use my trim as the chivalry prize. I was never quite so honored when the king held out my trim to the fighters and said, "This is the most important prize because it's for chivalry."
Isn't that wonderful? Well, that's absolutely beautiful. Thank you, Your Excellency. Appreciate your time. Thank you. Hello.
Good morning. How are you?
I'm very well indeed. Would you like to tell us about what you're doing, Pernell?
I would love to tell you about what I'm doing. I am making shoes, and here is the master shoemaker, Master Alanis. He taught me how to make shoes.
She calls me that again, I have to whack her.
And then this is one of my students, and she's having fitting problems, and I'm like, oh, hey, let me calm this off.
Take it up with the master.
We're making turn shoes. You make the shoe inside out, and this makes the stitching much easier. And you can see all the stitches, and so if you wore it like this, the stitches would just wear away right away. So you get it wet, and you turn it inside out, and you end up with a shoe that's right side out, and you can see that the stitches are tucked away all nice and safe, so your shoe will last much longer. These are some patents that I purchased online from Historic Enterprises, and I made these shoes to fit inside them. They're very elegant, a little bit too tight, so they're display shoes. And these are the shoes I was wearing yesterday, and they were still wet this morning, so they're display shoes today.
Excellent. Beautiful work. Beautiful work. And you're making another pair of shoes right now, are you?
I am. I'm trying a different technique from a class that I took at Kingdom A&S this year that was taught by Godric. And it's less of a period method, but it produces a beautiful 14th century pointy-toed shoe with buckles. So
And where do you get your pattern for your shoes?
well, that method, you put a sock, well, you develop a pattern around it. This method, we wore an old sock and we duct taped around it and drew the seams where we wanted them and cut it off, and then we transferred it onto canvas for our pattern, and then transferred it onto the leather. And
But your historical model for the shape of the shoe and for the style of where you place the seams and so on.
oh, I did no research on this. I totally went with the class. But if I had my books here, I could look one up.
I'm sorry, didn't mean to put you on the spot.
And here's a very bad photocopy of a photo of the shoe. But it's pointy.
Very good. Very good. Lovely. Well done. Thank you.
I'm going to do it. I'm going to walk
Whether
down
it's
and get
okay
some-
or not.
Yeah. You're going to walk with me, Barony, and get something to drink.
All right.
I'm nasty enough.
So maybe you can explain what you're doing, Morgana.
All right. Well, this is a bowl that I threw yesterday, and it's still damp enough that it hasn't dried out too much. So I'm going to trim the excess clay off of it. I'm recentering it in hopes of getting it nice and even, so when I trim it, it'll seem pretty even. Now, you don't see many European bowls with actual feet like we're used to doing modernly. So you do see Byzantine bowls and Middle Eastern bowls with feet. So maybe this will end up being a Middle Eastern bowl.
And you're doing this by foot power.
Yes, this flywheel is just being kicked. It's a little wet from throwing, but I'm not adding any moisture to it because I'm just trimming it right now. The centrifugal force will get it going, and then I carve or throw if I'm throwing until I begin to drag it down with the weight of the clay and pressure against it.
Doesn't that get awfully tiring?
It does. It does.
You forget how physical it was before motors.
I'm certainly relearning, although the learning curve is a little more steep than I thought it was going to be. And just trimming away the excess. The goal is to have the clay the same thickness all the way through, from the lip to the sides to the base to the foot. And we usually throw the bowls with fairly thick feet because when we take them off the wheel, they're slightly less likely to warp from moving them when they're still wet.
Well, that makes sense.
So I've got a nice, healthy, probably Syrian bowl that I'm going to be making. Because I love Syrian designs. Really love them. So what I'll probably do after this is fired and gone through the bisque, I will put an underglaze on it and then put a transparent glaze over the top of that.
That's fascinating. It looks like such fun.
It is. It is. And then I'm just kind of recompressing the clay with my fingers. It has less tendency to crack if you recompress it. Sometimes moisture and stretching the clay and that sort of thing will pull it apart so rapidly that it will crack. So sometimes what you do then is to compress the clay again by pressing it or paddling it or using tools to smooth it. So that is probably all I'm going to do on this one then, until it dries and I put it in the kiln. So it feels pretty even through there.
That's
So,
beautiful.
thank you.
Thank you so much for the demonstration.
Oh, certainly.
Hey, you're stealing my thunder over here.
What? I got all your people? Hey, if you were doing decent work.
Oh, that hurt.
They're at the woodworking booth down the way.
Doing beautiful.
Doing
Thank you.
Okay, Dame Gwen.
Yes, ma'am.
Explain to us what you're doing.
You caught me in the middle of this. Right now I have wedged this lump of clay, put it on the wheel head, centered it. Now I am opening it up, pulling it out. I'm going to make a tall cylinder, which may turn, if it's tall enough, it'll be a jug or a pitcher. If it's not too tall, I'll make it a mug or a tanker. You have to constantly kick the wheel to keep it going. Collar it in so it get more clay toward the center. So I want to make a narrow cylinder. Pulling it up. Can't go any faster than the wheel is going around, otherwise it will develop a warp. Clay from the bottom, pull it up to the top. Slowly, keeping the pressure even on both the inside and the outside. So I want a straight cylinder. When I want to bell it out, I'll put more pressure on the inside. Pretty tall. It's not bad. There's a little moisture in it because it's starting to get dry on the inside. So just moisture is dripping down my hand and along the side of the inside of the pot.
Is the crossbow? What crossbows? Remember the crossbow? The staples?
Excess moisture on the bottom now, because you don't want standing moisture in your pot. Cause it to break after it dries. Take the lip off just because I like working with an even lip.
She's on the wheel at the moment.
I'm going to bell this out a little bit, leave the lip narrow in. Make it wide outside. And I'm going to take it in a little bit here.
You're sneaky.
I am sneaky. Yeah.
Very good.
I'm just finishing up the shaping that I want right now. I think that's good enough. I think I'm going to turn this into a pitcher. So when this dry, well actually I need to put the lip in right away. Don't watch Morgan, where you are. Her pitcher spouts look so much better than mine. Right. I'm gonna make a lip. I mean a spout for the pitcher.
Yeah.
Just a little spout.
Excuse me.
Yes, sir.
What are you making?
This is a pitcher. See that?
Yeah.
Okay.
I want to do it too. Like.
Now I'm going to take my wire tool and cut it off the wheel head. Now I'm ready to take it off the wheel here to dry until it's dry enough, and then when it's drier, I can put a pitcher on it. I mean a handle on it like this pitcher, but it has to be to the point where I can touch it like this before I can do that.
Beautiful. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Thank you.
My son did. My son gave me one.
Out there fighting somewhere. They're fighting. Well, they were. He got money.
I think they gave her a chance.
Still some more. It's funny I don't get any at all. If only someone had a knife so we could put it in the house.
Bring it back home. Oh, that's fine. Are you friends with Todd?
Was around the camera, brought me a full-size enlargement of the picture he took of me because I said I didn't have any pictures of me sewing.
Really?
Yes.
Also explain your sewing shop to us, my dear.
Oh, you want me to do? Oh, you're doing video. That's right. You did the video things. Well, this is a tailor shop from right around 1600, and we have the cutting table, which is not being used right now, with a padded ironing surface and measuring tools. This measuring tool back here is a French L, which is longer than the English ones and what have you. It's about 48 inches. And then we have the calipers, which will help us do curves, and a great big huge pair of scissors, which are wonderful to cut with. And right now I'm working on a petticoat, and I'm just about finished with the back seam on it. And it's being held in place with a sewing clamp so I can sew faster. And let's see, what else do we have for sewing equipment in here? We have shelves for fabric and for some of the books that I have here, most of which are for display and for explanations. We have all the different marking tools, charcoal, there's a couple of graphite pencils, and a soapstone marker for dark fabrics. And let's see, what else do I have over there? I have a sharpening stone for sharpening the various bits and pieces, especially needles. And I have a pinking iron. And then over on the other side we have the antique pretties, which what I picked out here of my sewing antiques are the ones that would have been used in period. They're of the period style, 1600 or before. Most of them date post 1600 because, well, I can't afford the ones that date before that. They're a lot harder to find. But there's a lot of stuff in there. What else do you want to know?
Well, I think that's an excellent explanation. I just want to show all the
goodies, yeah.
All the goodies and all. And my dear, maybe you can explain to us.
I am doing the foundation for a Spanish coat. This is actually the inside next to the gown, and this is actually the front, and the lining, the inner lining, and then the 2 layers of padding, which will give a smooth shaped shoulder. I have the epaulettes here, lining, inner lining, and padding. The material, the tailor has not cut yet the main material until after foundation's pieced. And it gets collar epaulettes, this, and then the long row.
Would that be similar to the gown that you have on, or
No.
what is it more like?
No,
It'll be the overdown.
It's the loose open robe that is worn over the top.
I see. Okay.
As an extra layer.
Mm-hmm.
So
Beautiful. All by hand.
here is where we are.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Right now I have a woven. I finished the turn, so with that card, probably it was, because you see it was blue before. Okay. So that's what's happening. And this is a threaded in pattern, so no matter how I turn the cards forwards or backwards, I'm going to get this arrow pattern. Because it's set up to make only this arrow pattern, because it's a modern pattern. If it were a medieval pattern, I could, without talking to you, switch it around to be a different pattern. Okay. You can't do that with modern. Okay. And I just demonstrate modern most of the time because really 2.5 hours I don't want to tear it out. Yeah. But that's what's going on. And so that's how these tablets can do anything that this loom can do. So this is a 4-harness loom that weaves cloth. Oh, I could make, if I wanted to be totally foolish, I could have hundreds of cards and weave cloth with this. Absolutely. And I've made rugs.
Do people do that?
No. because they were not foolish. I've made rugs, but I've usually done it in strips.
Okay.
You could do that, but I can do any design, any structure she can do on this loom, I can do on these tablets. The patterning that I do on these tablets, she cannot recreate. So this is much more versatile. It's just for narrow wear.
Okay.
And so it was used in period for trim on your clothing, for saddle, for harnesses for horses, things like that. It's very strong.
Did they use different fibers? Did they use it with silk and
Yeah, there's silk and linen and wool is usually what was used.
Okay.
And,
I've never seen you in that outfit
and today
before.
was synthetics and cotton, but
My boys
and metallic thread, because they brocaded the metallic.
Sharon?
So.
Hi!
Anytime. Oh, sure you do. Sure you do. Oh, you're very welcome. Feel free to take information on the different kinds of weaving if you want. Yeah.
I'd like to
There are
say I
4
don't believe I
different
did
ones
that, but I do believe I did that.
Jim and Cassandra. Lady is not a good thing.
No. No.
No matter who your lady is.
That is very true.
So come in. Come on in. She'll even let you try it.
I will. You too could be drafted
Duck under
into
my
weaving
stuff.
for the Baroness.
Duck under and come over here. Because she'll let you try it. Then you can see both things at the same time. Well, one at a time anyway. This is called tablet weaving. And the loom are these cards. And depending on how you thread them, what colors you put in, and which direction you turn them in, determines the pattern. What I'm doing is a modern pattern that will only make a couple of designs, and I'm turning the whole pack at once. In medieval patterning, which is, are there examples back over there, they were all threaded alike, and you turned each tablet separately to bring up the thread that you wanted. It can sometimes take several hours an inch in medieval patterning. I can't do that and talk to people, so I'd just be sitting here being rude if I did that. So this is just a modern pattern, but this is you just turn them forward and or backwards in whichever case, and the pattern just occurs. You have to do a little more finagling if you're making your own pattern up as you go along. This set of cards can produce everything that can be produced on either of these two looms. You could make it that wide if you were totally crazy. But typically these were used to make trim, and the designs that you can make with the tablets cannot be made on any of the other looms. They can only be made on tablets. And there are several hundred different techniques within the subject matter of tablet weaving. So there are all kinds of ways to get true diagonal lines that cross back and forth, or straight lines and checks and that kind of thing. You can't do true diagonals, really, except in tablet weaving. It's all an illusion and everything else. This was done, we have a band from the Hallstatt culture in Austria, dated to about 1000 BC, in one of the most complicated of the techniques, which of course means they were doing it for a long time before they had gotten to that point. We have evidence of impressions in metal and clay that go back to 3000 BC. So it's been around a long time. They used it for trim on their clothing. They used it on a warp-weighted loom, which was the loom they used early on to space their warp. On this band, what we've done here is we've done long fringes, and these, I could put this up on a bar and then weave cloth on these long fringes, and that's what they did. And the twisting of the tablets keeps these from coming together, it keeps them spaced evenly so that you can weave cloth. The same thing that happens for her on this loom by putting them through the heddles. So this would just be tied up, and then you'd have this long curtain of thread, and that you would tie weights onto and weave cloth. It's also used, they use them for horse harnesses. It's extremely strong. We could take this, there's a silk band over there that's done in brown and green. It's done in sewing thread. It's strong enough to tow a truck. So they use them for horse harnesses and collars and leashes in decorative ways. And if you've ever seen a yurt is held together by a tablet woven band. That band that goes around it is actually structurally holding the whole structure up. And so it's very strong, it's very utilitarian, very useful, and you can make incredible patterns.
This is probably
with
a lot
it.
more comfortable, and I don't think I could be. I know it looks like I'm weaving, but really I'm unweaving.
You're not supposed to give yourself away until you know that.
They notice when they're weavers.
Words of wisdom.
No. She can tell.
I wasn't looking though.
But I wasn't going to rat you out.